Welcome to the SDG studio, and I'm here tonight with Viwanou Gnassounou, who is the Assistant Secretary General of the African, Caribbean and Pacific Group of States. And he joined us today to touch upon a number of interesting topics related to Sustainable Development Goals. So, Mr. Gnassounou, thank you very much for joining us today, and we will start with a couple of very easy general questions that a lot of people care about. So, the first one is about new consensus for development. This is something we would be interested to hear your view about. What do you think is the main achievement of the new consensus for development?
Well, the main achievement, I would say, in the design, because now we just have it formally adopted and we have to see it at work. The main achievement, I think, from our perspective, because we are as privileged partner to the EU, we have been part of the consultation process. I think we can, from the beginning, recognize that it is a result of a large consultation process. So what is contained there, just as the SDGs, is a reflection on what those who are concerned by development, what they are looking for in terms of support, in terms of accomplishment from the system. So the new consensus really is a scheme which will now respond to the expectation of those to which it is addressed.
And from a perspective of your focus area, economic development and trade, what would you identify as the key development of the new consensus? Or if, for example, you compare it to the Cotonou Agreement, what's new about for trade and economic development?
It's first the recognition of the limitation of the public interventions. There's more recognition of the role of what we call the non-state actors, starting from the farmers, but what we call generally the private sector. But we all recognize here that we cannot do it all with public money, but we should better use the public money to enable the private sector to work. But at the same time, we need more transparency in the system. So we need there to also involve the other non-state actors, NGOs, civil society, to play a role of cut and balance in the system. This is something new. We had it in the Cotonou Agreement as principles, but here we are effecting it. So we formally agreed that those non-state actors should have a greater role, and then the private sector should be a clear partner to the public sector. So this is a great achievement in this new arrangement. So.
Thank you. And speaking more specifically about trade, can you tell us a bit more about the recent developments in collaboration for trade negotiations in the region?
What we are focusing on, as African, Caribbean, and Pacific Group of States, our story in trade is generally related to the EU, and now we're talking since 10 years of the economic partnership agreements. But what we're really looking at is the opportunities, what we call the intra-ACP trade. The intra-Africa, intra-Caribbean, but also between Caribbean and Africa. We can discover, for example, I had a colleague who was just telling me that he went to Libreville in Gabon, and they discovered that there was citrus from South Africa exported to Europe and re-exported to Libreville. And the exporter from South Africa was there, and they said, but this is my product. So how come we need so long distance? We are talking about climate change, the shortage, possible roads to deliver, but also producing and knowing our market. So our challenge now here is really to support the intra-ACP trade, knowing the opportunities. We are working, so here we are proud to say that we are also trying to tackle SDG 17, working together. And we are working with our friend and colleague from UNCTAD, ITC, and trying really to map the trade opportunities within the ACP sphere. And from there, we should be able to put policy to enable those who are actors of this trade to make it happen, really. So we are talking to the daily life of people, going close to the stakeholders and taking the opportunities where they are and making it happen.
Thank you. Today at SDG Studio, we talk a lot about Sustainable Development Goals, obviously. So could you tell us about the priorities of ACP in terms of Sustainable Development Goals right now?
Well, we'll start from the number one, which is SDG 1. We all committed to it. This is I would say, when you look at the objective of the ACP, is to progressively reduce or alleviate poverty. This is part of what we call the Georgetown Agreement, which is the constitutive agreement of the ACP group. It's working together in solidarity to reduce poverty, alleviate, but also for progressive integration of our countries into the world economy. So we are somehow a bit in advance to the SDGs, and seeing those objectives now in the SDGs, those become our priorities. Ending poverty, supporting rural farmers, having smart cities, making our economic works with energy, sustainable energy, and of course climate. We have a strong team in New York right now working on SDG 14 with the UN Oceans, because you will discover also that 37 of the seas are ACP countries. So small island development states, I prefer to call them the big ocean states. They are mostly ACP countries, so we need to design policy also to respond to their need to harness the potential of the blue economy. Taking what we can take from the oceans, but also preserving the ecosystem and make it sustainable. We are working together on that as well.
Grateful that we touched upon the topic of the oceans, and this week is not only EDDs, but the Ocean Conference in New York as well. And regarding to this, I wanted to ask you, what do you think young people like myself could do to contribute towards the SDG number 14 to save the oceans? Because as you've mentioned, it's highly relevant for ACP region. So what do you think young people from ACP region can do to make SDG 14 happen?
What we're doing there is working with our youth in terms of entrepreneur. Both youth and women, the gender issue is also important for us, but when you're talking about youth, you can say young female entrepreneur, so we have both together. We are working with them mainly in the fishery sectors. And you know, if you look at the fisheries value chains, where we can have added value in the processing is after catch. And that's where we have a lot of potential for young and women to intervene and to process the fishes where they come from the catch, from the seas. So we are trying to create opportunities there and to make sure that we can work and develop a job and create job, decent job, sustainable job at that level, and this mainly targeting youth and also women.
Great, thank you so much. And finally, I wanted to ask you if you have a message for the young people in the ACP countries who are willing to get engaged with the Sustainable Development Goals. If you have one, it would be great if you can deliver it to the camera.
We certainly are happy and willing to work with the youth, only because whatever we are designing is for tomorrow's world. So those who will be living tomorrow's world is the youth of today. What we really want them to tell us is how they are seeing the future, what they want to see in the future. So they need to push us, to tell us how we should design today's policy to respond to the need of tomorrow. If we can have that, we will be able to say that we have worked for the next generation, and we will be comfortable enough to leave the stage to the new generation and be sure that what will be there will serve the purpose of tomorrow.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for your time, and thank you for recognizing the role of youth and our commitment to the Sustainable Development Goals. And we were here today with the Assistant Secretary General of African, Caribbean, and Pacific Group of States, and we thank you for your time.
Thank you for inviting me.